you're not prepared to do that, you will never get a house in this market.
So the big question is, what are top agents doing to absolutely crush it in real estate, grow their teams and add more transactions year over year while so many struggle? To get the answers, we interview top real estate agents to learn their secrets to success. Listen, we believe every agent should make a minimum of $100,000 per year, and we're on a mission to make this happen. We've already helped over 100 agents achieve this with our coaching. So if you want to fast track your business growth, get to your first $100,000 in GCI or add another $100,000 in GCI using social strategies, then head over to go.eliteagentsecrets.com, or you can just click the link in the description below. Also, just make sure to follow us, hit that subscribe button, and if you get any value from this at all, please tell a friend and leave us a review. My name is Andrew Dunn.
And my name is Peter Michael. Welcome to Elite Agent Secrets.
I want to digress onto your second topic, actually, which is to do with those listings, which is, this is actually, although it's something we discuss in a roundabout way, we've never had someone
specifically address this out, right?
Yeah. So your second topic is negotiation. Mm-hmm. This is quite possibly one of my favorite things that I kind of don't talk about a lot. Mm-hmm. I read a lot about negotiation and persuasion, and it's also to do with like human psychology and how there is certain ways that humans just work, and there is nothing you're going to do to overcome them. So some people say it's like manipulation, and they want to think of it negatively, when actually, if you use it, it's actually for their benefit. They feel like everything's better. So I love this topic. I've babbled already.
Absolutely.
Please unpack negotiation, why it's your second secret to success.
Okay, so negotiation expertise would be the second secret. For me, there's like two main negotiations that you do. Number one is negotiating with my client, and number two is negotiating for my client, whether it's a buyer or a seller. So negotiating with my client, of course, if I listing the property and there's comes up with tons of objections, and you do their objection handlers and all that, and negotiate your commissions and everything, and negotiate the price for them to come up with a more realistic price, and show them and do a really great job in CMAs. And then negotiating for your client. So let's say for a buyer, they're coming in with they're putting an offer, and you got to negotiate with the agent for them to accept your client's offer. So a lot of it comes with to be a successful negotiator, and this is mostly, and I would say for this one, this is for buyers who are having a hard time right now. A lot of the successful negotiation comes in with great knowledge. When I say knowledge, I would say knowledge of the real estate market. Understanding your numbers, understanding the upside potential, and of course the knowledge of your area. So I live in North Las Vegas, which people think it's a ghetto place until I show them the $1 million homes over here, and then I say, "Oh, why didn't I move to North Las Vegas before?" So anyway, in my market, in my area, and especially here in North Las Vegas, I spoke to the mayor of North Las Vegas. I already seen the map of where they're putting in commercial establishments. I know where they're placing in the next five. I know the businesses that are operating and are building, wherein each of these 8 businesses are coming up with 2,000 to 5,000 jobs after they're built in the next few years. So if you have great knowledge of your area, it's so easy for me to tell a client to buy this home, and I'm right most of the time, where their homes has appreciated by 36% year over year, because I know the upside potential of that area. So that's one knowledge of the real estate market. So this is part of negotiating with my clients. So they couldn't find any homes on Summerlin, or couldn't find any homes in the Southwest area or Henderson area, where most people are going because they read it on the news that, hey, Henderson was the most safest city in the country. Is the third safest city in the country is Henderson, Nevada. And they all want to go to Henderson, but they don't realize that hundreds of thousands of people also want to go to Henderson, and they're competing with so many people. and I tell them to, hey, I know that you've read about this, and Henderson is a very established place. I've sold a bunch of houses there, and they're very happy. But hear me out. There's another area that are coming up. I mean, this is, of course, when I know if they're targeting a specific school, fine. But if they're just wanting to retire, wanting to have a safe place, and they want to have great upside potential in their area, I show them other areas, and I show them why these areas are a great buy. So I negotiated with them on the location that makes it easier for them to buy a home for $100,000 less for the same kind of home. So that's because of your knowledge of the real estate market. You're able to negotiate successfully with your client into buying a home elsewhere and get them under contract and sell them the house successfully. So that's one. Knowledge of homes is number two. So like I said, my background, my dad is a contractor, my brother's contractors and architect. So we spent a lot of time in new construction and homes that are being constructed. So I have good knowledge of the anatomy of a house, how homes are built in general, what are the types of roof, HVAC, ducts, the types of flooring, types of cabinets, and all that. And I'm also a real estate investor, and we renovate homes for sale or for rent. And because I have that knowledge and I kind of know the cost to replace, let's say a buyer comes in, we looked at the inspection report, right? They got under contract and they look at the inspection report and they're freaked out of, hey, the floor is not even, hey, the ceiling is cracked and that, blah, 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 blah. And because I've seen that many times and we've corrected that many times, and I know the contractors who can fix those easily, and I can tell them this is the cost of when we did this the last time, and I know the people that I can get in to see how serious the problems are. I can tell that to the client, and then I can tell them how we can fix those problems later on after they close. Because hey, if you're buying a house right now, you have to purchase it as is, meaning you're not going to ask for repairs if you're competing at 20 other offers on the market, right? So because of your knowledge of homes, anatomy and physiology of these homes, how they all work, and how and kind of the cost of how much it costs. And there's a big difference between labor in California and labor here in Nevada, where a roof as a simple roof repair in California could cost them $10,000. Here it's only $2,000, and sometimes they don't believe me until I do it and see it. But because of that, they won't back out, and you've successfully sold them a home, and of course solved their issue. So because of your knowledge of homes, you've successfully negotiated with your client, and of course, if you have a great team, great lender, title. Great team of contractors that can help you and your clients, close on their home, then yeah, those are just parts of negotiation and expertise that I want to add on here.
What I like about these is these also get encapsulated into being the knowledgeable agent or the knowledge broker, right? And it's like what people miss out on. I think this is directed more for our listeners who are newer, which is how do you compete as a newer agent? One of the biggest fucking things you can do is be more knowledgeable at a certain niche. Like, this is a huge point of leverage that people don't understand. So like one of the areas that we're big into and we're getting bigger into is pre-construction. Now that is a very specific subsector of selling a home. It's not like others. Now, if there is someone in our team who they call the $1 billion man, he did like 600 or 800 units last year alone, and nice. He focuses on pre-con, massive, just loves that shit. And it's like, he's got the relationships, but it's very specific and tailored. You don't do anything else. And that also comes into your market. We sell homes in Florida, huge pre-con market. Like the amount of people coming down to Florida is insane. They're just building skyscrapers like they're going out of fashion. Right. Yeah. So that is part of being the negotiation is tied into being a knowledgeable agent, which is tied into finding them the best deals, which is tied into basically, in a niche, in your shit, and you execute against it. And then that negotiation, it's an interesting, one of the things he said that I thought was interesting actually was like, when you know your market and you know what's available and you can basically help get them better deals, and kind of that transition there is interesting because a lot of people I think don't even try. I think it's kind of half-hearted, and understanding where your clients are coming from, where they're at, and the negotiation between you two as well is also an important thing. Never mind the negotiation between you and the seller of the home and the other agents. Like, these are all different types of negotiations that are going on all the time. Another thing that I think about when you talk about negotiation is the fact that you're negotiating with buyers and sellers all the time, with other agents all the time, with your clients and the people on the other end of the deal. So it's like you are getting like a full frontal attack from like 5 people minimum. And then you've also got negotiations with titles and mortgage to get better deals, to get more favorable terms and stuff like that going on all the time. And it's like, this is one thing that I think a lot of people don't appreciate about real estate agents. I think when you've really got a good grasp and sold a shitload of homes, there is a lot of other industries that you could go into because you've mastered a lot of fucking skills.
And I use everything that's in my knowledge of the client to get them better deals. Let's say, okay, this buyer is a registered nurse in the emergency department. They've been in the attack for they've been in the front line of the pandemic since before the vaccine was started. And I go ahead and, hey, if the seller's there, I talk to them. Hey, this is my client, this registered nurse, and and they got their deals accepted, even if they're not the best offer in the eyes of the seller's agent. Because of that, for builders, pre-construction, I sold maybe about 35 new construction homes last year, and I got maybe 10 of them under contract right now. I love selling new homes, and I try to get them better deals, like say for registered nurses, for police, for service members. They don't say it on the sales. The sales agent don't say it until I go ahead and, hey, don't you have a heroes program of some sort? Oh yeah, we do. Here's an additional $5,000 towards your closing costs. That's what I'm talking about. Why don't you? If they just came in by themselves and you don't tell them, then they lose on the $5,000. Right?
I've got a question for you, and I bet me and Peter are thinking the same fucking thing because you've just said that the veterans program. Peter, I'm going to assume you're thinking the same thing, so I'm going to let you ask.
No, go ahead, do the honors.
FHA loans. Is that what you're thinking about? Or not?
FHA, VA?
No, right.
VA,
so
you're thinking of the VA loans, correct?
No, I'm not. I know they're kind of bucketed together because there's intricacies to it. So the reason when you were saying that, I was like, VA, I was like, so we were talking about a bit of a nightmare FHA
deal. Yeah.
And I was curious now because we are talking about negotiation. This is very topical. Peter, you were the man on the ground trying to negotiate with this guy. And
first of all, I'm trying to negotiate with the client. Like, shut up, just listen to me. Like, dude, I want to sell you a home. There's nothing short of that I want to do is, first of all, find you the perfect house, get you in that house, get a loan, make sure that you close. So you're right. The negotiation had to happen with the client, which I didn't succeed because they wouldn't listen to me. If I said, let's go left, they would just go right, and it was their way or the highway. No harm, no harm, no foul. It's just becomes very challenging after a while. And then the second part of that is, so that's where Andrew's kind of going, is since we're on the topic of negotiations, how do you negotiate those deals when they're not favorable to the other party at all, right? Like the FHA, even though it's a great product, a lot of agents are not educated about what an FHA loan actually is. Government backed, or, the terms, they think that the appraisal is absolutely totally different process when it's not. In comparison to a conventional loan, right? Because they're looking for specific 2 or 3 items. I think it's like safety, occupancy, And then there was like one more. But typically, the FHA product is associated, for everybody who's in the States that's listening, with either no income or low income, or bad credit when there's going to be issues down the line where they're not going to be able to close, right? Basically, in some kind of way, financial irresponsibility. This is why they're in an FHA product instead of like a conventional loan. So how do you negotiate those deals? What does that look like? Are you taking them on?
Of course, yeah, of course. And I use every possible thing that I can do, because I know, okay, for here in the county, I think 60% are conventional of all the loans that closed last year. 60% are conventional. 20% are FHA and VA. Then
and for some reason they both get put in the same bucket, but they're not, right? And a VA loan is different. FHA loan is different. Like it's one's for veterans, the other one is for everybody else, right?
Yeah, totally different. But not all FHA are cash strapped. So so of course,
I agree with you, right? Like same like in my situation, the reason why they're FHA is because of some discrepancies between their FICO score and their actual credit score, or they missed it by, I don't know, something nominal, like 5 or 10 points on getting qualified for a conventional. Because for conventional, you need a 680 or higher, right?
Right.
They're sitting on plenty of cash. Appraisal caps, 10, 20 bands, no problem, right?
Right.
So
yeah. So I would tell them, okay, you are at a disadvantage because you're an FHA. Now, I'm not saying you switch to conventional, but this is how sellers are looking at your offer right now. So you got to understand the leverage here. Okay. So when we got the offer, we have to be very, very, very aggressive. Okay.
All right, so when we define the very aggressive part.
Yeah, there's levels in aggressiveness. So you go in, okay, if we're competing with we're competing with multiple offers. Okay, we're gonna say you purchase the property as is. You can do that. You can have a high EMD, earnest money deposit, right?
Check.
That's not okay. You can do purchase the property as is. So that means, okay, if we see some items on the house that they replaced the water heater, but they didn't put double straps on, I can pay for the guy who would put double straps on there. Okay, so it's as is, just so they pass inspection. We can get my guy to install the smoke detectors on every room. Okay, we got that covered. But first, I'm going to try to have the seller do it, definitely. And a lot of times they will, because I tell them, hey, it's an appraisal issue, so they have to do it before the appraiser comes in, right? Mm-hmm. And most of the time they do it because it's a safety issue anyway. So there's that. Number 3, biggest thing is a appraisal gap.
Okay.
So appraisal gap would be you're covering the difference between what it appraised for and what's the purchase price for in case the appraisal price is lower. You're covering up to X amount of it. So depending on my market analysis on the property and what I think this would appraise for, then I could recommend to the seller how much they're going in for. So for example, my client looks like the property is overpriced, which is most of them are, and my clients are going in for $20,000 over, and they're putting a guarantee of $20,000, something like that. Aside from it being as is, aside from it being, aside from a high EMD, when I say high EMD, 3%, 2 to 3%, and they give us we give them the proof of funds. So even if they're FHA, if you do it that way, as aggressive as that one, more if you want to go really, really aggressive. This happened with one of my clients who closed on the property last week. The EMD gets is non-refundable, gets to the seller the first day that they accepted their offer. So once that happens, they already removed the appraisal contingency. They already removed the loan contingency because their EMD is already given to the seller. If they back out, they cannot get back their earnest money deposit. There's no due diligence. So it's like cash, but it's not. But there's no contingencies on the offer. And I had a client who had
That's
30
really
out.
ballsy. Holy shit.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell the client, hey, this is this. You got to know the consequence of this. Okay, if you put this on and you lose your and you back out for some reason, you will not get your earnest money deposit back. So I got to tell them the consequence. So when I give them the buyer's consult, I tell them the levels of how strong, how aggressive your offers can be. One also part is you're paying for the seller's closing costs. You're paying for the real property transfer tax. You're paying for the HOA resale package, HOA demand that can be, or you can just pay a buyer to pay $5,000 seller's closing costs, something like that. Depends on how aggressive you want to be. So you got to get their risk appetite. And in the eyes of my one of my clients who's doing a 1031 exchange, they really need to get the property right away, because they only have 45
time is
days.
Of the essence, right? What is that?
Yes.
Depends. It's like 30 days,
Yeah.
give or take, where they have to move funds from one to the other.
Yeah, 45 to get under contract, to identify 3 properties to get under contract, 180 days to close that, in order to avoid paying the capital gain. So they are highly motivated. That's what we did, and they got their contract. They got their contract in. So it depends on how aggressive they want to be, and I have to tell them the consequences of doing this, and
So Clark, here's another curveball that I'll throw at you.
Sure.
You told them the different levels of risk.
Mm-hmm.
You educated about how things work and the different ways that you can make your offer stand out. What do you do when they hit you back with, I'm not doing that. I'm not paying that. Why should I be paying $20,000 and closing the appraisal gap? Why should I be paying extra for the transfer tax? Why should I be paying for the seller's closing?
Mm-hmm. Then I probably didn't do and then I'll re-explain to them what the market is doing right now, and how people get their offers accepted right now. Because if you don't do that, if you're not prepared to do that, you will never get a house in this market currently.
Yes.
So next.
I know. For some reason, this stigma around FHAs is so huge, which kind of leads me to my next question is, when do you pull the plug? What are your telltale signs where you just have somebody who you've educated, you've reiterated, it's going to be extremely challenging and difficult to get them into the house? When do you pull the plug? Or do you pull the plug?
I would have to pull the plug if they're not ready to do what it takes to get the house right now, because they are wasting their time, and nobody wants to waste their time. They're wasting my time, but I don't tell them that. But they are wasting their time if they're not prepared to do all of these things in order to get a house right now. Unless if I could find them a new construction, because new construction, they don't discriminate on VAs. They don't discriminate on FHAs. If we can find something on their price point, sure, we can go for that. But if they're going
good luck finding a pre-construction, right, inventory. I mean, yeah, that would be ideal. And we're talking about a real life case scenario that we just pretty much dealt with, not too long ago. And we did everything by the book, just like you're explaining. And at one point, it was a relief that we finally helped them, or indirectly helped them find a house. And even if it was with another agent, it was like, fuck yes. Thank God we got them into a house, that somebody from our team was able to make it happen. But at one point, it's like you're getting in a car and it's telling you, stop sign, red light, green light, make a left turn here. And it's like, instead of making a left turn, we're making a right turn. Now we're getting further and further away from our destination. And we don't have the luxury of time because the lease is going to be ending soon, right? All of these things are buckling up. And it's like, all right, we're about to drive off this cliff. We have no seatbelts on. You're not listening to me to turn. So I'm either deploying myself out of this vehicle and saving myself, or we're kind of going down with you. And then I'm the bad guy because I'm supposed to be your co-pilot. Right?
Yeah, no, sometimes I would still take them out. And then, and this happened one time, we go to a house and there's like 10 other people in line for that house that just came out today, that day. And then, they realize, that, yeah, we really gotta take this seriously, and then they call their parents. The parents would give them parents gave them a $20,000 extra. So then we can just go ahead and put that onto the contract, and they got their house in. So,
but ultimately, you're prepared to walk away when you can't.
Yes. Yeah,
or I should say, when you're being undermined as a professional from helping them and empowering them to actually be in the best position of winning a house.
Yeah, and I'm not really totally against them, because I get it. I really get it. But if I'm really but if you're gonna buy a house right now, you got to be really motivated to buy a house right now. And I get it that that it is really tough, that you want to pay. You don't want to pay for that. Maybe you're just not ready for now. But once you're ready, I'm there to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in gaining access to our course and coaching programs, then head over to go.eliteagentsecrets.com.